Čakaj, kaj pa mi? Aha.
Aha, kaj pa mi? Ne, kaj pa ti? Aha, Greetings, fellow citizens!
Evo, Bine. Aleš pa svojih 5 minut.
Welcome to the dark side, huh?
Hello, party people.
Yeah. If I can hang on one second.
O, legenda, on je res na letališču.
Ker bom šel pol kar ven, da ne bom...
Ja. Nekaj reklam? Do you hear us, Jeff, or Bine?
I can hear you.
Слышим.
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
I can hear you as well.
A da bomo škoda glas? O, Bine, kako dobro zgledaš obsijan v zemlji.
Lep pozdrav tudi tebi.
To je ta večerna lučka, ko daš čez nič prt, pa daš klientkam vedeti, da si doma.
Norec.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you guys to stick with English and speak very carefully because I can only understand a little bit and there's a bunch of background noise. This is completely not optimal, but I just want to make sure that we're at least a little bit in sync as much as we can be until I get there, which would probably be like 11 o'clock tomorrow. Keep your on Slack. I have a flight that leaves here at like 6:30. It's the soonest flight. And everything sends me to like the North Pole and then back down. So it's a bit of a round trip.
All right. So tomorrow's session will be postponed?
Roughly like 11 o'clock, I think.
Okay.
But I'll as soon as I like get in the air and start moving around, just keep your eye on Slack.
Okay.
And then also because I'm not leaving until Monday morning, Sunday, we'll be able to run a full time on Sunday. So what I probably will do, I'll still think about this because everything's kind of moving around. Very improv like entrepreneurship is. So we're gonna probably move the presentations maybe to later.
Okay.
And then we can take the Sunday morning part to talk some more about the things that we would have talked about either tonight or tomorrow morning.
Okay. Sounds fine.
Okay. So I don't know if you started that recording that I had from last weekend. Did you guys start that?
Yep.
So that serendipitously, as they say, is was what we would be talking about now. Bye, Christian. Thank you for helping. So this is what I did. You can learn from my mistake. The gate said, oh, we have a mechanical problem, so we're going to delay everything 15 to 20 minutes. So I was like, okay. So I turned around and I went and got a thing of water and I came back and they closed the gate and everyone was on the plane but me. And I said, I thought you said you delayed 15. They said, oh, we're delaying taking off by 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, it happens.
I've only done that. I mean, not that. I just flat out missed my flight once when I was a rookie at IBM and my customers were on the plane and I missed the flight. And then they went on, they were going to an IBM executive briefing in Poughkeepsie, New York. And I wasn't even on the flight. That was a lesson learned, but here I am like 40 years later, I do it again. Anyway, so we've got Rati. This is one thing I did not want to miss. is that Rati's going to be joining us in about 15 minutes. And because of my noise here, I'm probably just going to go on mute. I will introduce her, but it's really any questions you guys might have. I don't know if you took any notes or like just thought about what you might want to ask her, but just as a refresh, Rati did the TheRealReal startup working with Julie Wainwright out of their garage, and as you remember from the beginning of the story, they collected like 1,000 items and then put it online, and they were very true to the MVP model, minimum viable product. They just set up the website. It just had all the products listed, descriptions, prices, with of course the flashing everywhere that everything was guaranteed and authentication was guaranteed for the life of the transaction. And then kind of the rest is history, that they just ran out and got more and more inventory. And you might remember that they're supply constrained. So whereas normally you would focus all of your attention on the customer and customer marketing to get a new client, in this particular case, they're doing that, of course, but their constraint is getting more and more supply. So they focus their attention on developing different ways of going and getting different types of customers. You might remember they had like a lobby and a luxury apartment complex in New York City, and they put some like an Alza box or like some online shipping delivery service kind of box. Of course, it's luxury and security in the lobbies of these high-end properties. But and then they open the stores up, and they're looking for concierge to go to somebody's house and collect their things. There are all these different ways that they were using to improve that. And then now she's the president and CEO, and their stock did take a hit. So I think Kojal, you mentioned that before, and so that would be a reasonable question to ask her. So here she is, the president and CEO, and she's got the investment community, chewing on her ass, like, hey, why aren't you either making enough money? Or you could ask her actually, what is their concern? Why are they pounding on the stock so much, and what is she doing to try to improve that? Or she might just be saying, I'm not focused on it. I'm focused on increasing our operations and other things that will ultimately deliver on the performance, and then the stock will recover when whatever those key performance indicators are that she is currently not able to deliver. Maybe that would be another question. You guys, so let me shut up for a few minutes and open it back. Do you have other things you'd like to ask about this that would be a good setup for before she joins us?
Sorry, Jeff?
Do you guys have any questions, or do you remember enough about the story about TheRealReal that you know what to ask her?
In the classroom, we are good, yeah.
This is actually a problem. I don't know. Can you move closer? Maybe because the mic is at the TV. Is that right?
I guess so.
Yeah or no? Maybe, I don't know. Chris left his computer there.
Okay, so maybe if whoever's speaking, or if you could just maybe come to the side of the table. I mean, you're positioned well that I can see you, but if you're asking a question, it's rather hard. It sounds kind of tinny. I don't know. How do I sound? Can you hear me well enough?
Hear everybody very well. So
Okay.
yeah.
So do you guys have any from the classroom? Do you have any questions, or what are you thinking about asking her?
I actually have a few questions prepared. Challenges in leadership. So specific instances when she had to make a difficult decision that shaped the direction of the company. Maybe consumer trust. What strategies have been implemented to build and maintain trust with customers, especially regarding the authenticity of products? Maybe learning from failure, to maybe share times when TheRealReal faced a setback and what lessons did they learn? How did they bounce from that? And maybe something about future trends. So what do they see for TheRealReal in, let's say, 5-year span? What trends do they see emerging in the resale and consignment market, and how are they preparing for them?
Good, good, very good. Alex, that's a good move. Anybody actually who wants to join from your device, that if you want to have better either listening or mic, that's a good one. Any other questions you guys thinking about?
Let's see.
Okay, cool. Well, I've asked her to really just kick it off by just giving us an update, thinking about what happened as of the end of that recording, which was 2020, 2021, and what's happened since then to get them where they are, which I think would address the stock, and she might, but they might say something already about what you just brought up. Although the leadership challenge one, she probably wouldn't just naturally talk about that. That's a good question. And how to change over time. This is one of the things we talked about in terms of entrepreneurship and the necessity to be flexible over time. You know, there's a lot of chaos at the beginning, and there's a lot of issues that you've got to prioritize, and then think about, okay, what's critical success factor? You know, I won't be alive if I don't do these 3 things today. Well, obviously, then everything below the 3 things falls off the list. But you find that, you know, that kind of the variability of what you're working on has to go down over time. You've got to be established past that kind of first phase chaos. You've got to get into a mode where you're starting to have this definable, repeatable processes. I mean, that's the only way to scale. So I think she'll probably be focusing on those things. I mean, they're 15 years old now, so they're old enough that they should, almost everything they do is definable, repeatable. And now they're just looking for, you remember that thing I drew on the board, the value chain of activities. And she's just looking into each one of those, operational business units, and not business units, but operational components of the business as you're providing more and more value to the client and breaking those things down. I'm going to bounce over and just make sure she's not messaging anything outside. So obviously my apologies for not being there. If the reporting that I put up there, that was just random. That last week they asked me to come talk to another executive MBA class, and the random part was that it fit exactly what we're doing. So it might feel like it, but it's not just busy work that here, go watch this, YouTube recording of, some monkeys. So, but when you go through it, because it was the day before they're doing their pitches. That's the of that call that I was on with them. And I did I say that in the beginning of the recording? I don't remember. Yeah. Well, that's the setup. So they've got about 20 students or so, I think, and about 8 groups. It was like 8 groups, startups, and they're pitching. I think they pitched Monday night or Tuesday night. I didn't hear the results of them, but so what I was supposed to do was to just take the time with them and talk about what are the critical things to consider when doing the pitch, and then take their questions and just react to that. So that's kind of that's what that was. and what I used as a backdrop was the Eric Ries lean startup model, and talking about minimum viable product, and then threw it back to them and said, okay, what's your, what's the market you're going after? Who are the customers? The very first one. And then what are the needs and wants of that client? I'm reading the message you just posted.
Yeah, so I actually copied and pasted a few questions I wanted to ask
Okay.
in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. So that was I would assume you didn't get very far into that video then? Were there any reactions or comments about that recording? Nothing? No?
Yeah, we actually probably didn't get very far.
Okay.
I personally got to the pitching, so to the two critical pieces, great idea, and the team. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I do suggest either tonight, later, or in the morning, if you could watch that. And of course, since it's a recording, you can kind of fast forward through it a little. Although I think you would just want to hear it straight through, because they're really good questions from the class, from the teams. They were very kind of sincere. They were not typical. They were really asking like, okay, what should we talk about? And of course, you go to like the what's the pitch deck look like, but more like questioning, what is it that I want to say about the product, and what do I think about the market opportunity, and what do I think about our constraints, or what is it that we're needing to develop in this early stage at this point. And I think what you'll get from the answers is that each one of them, they're kind of in a different place, and they have to just consider where they are in their place before they think about, okay, well, what's relevant to talk about in a pitch? Because if it's still an idea stage, and maybe you've got a prototype, well, that's one thing. Or maybe you've already got it built and you've tested it out with a market, and that's something different, of course. So no two pitches will be the same. And then you just have to focus on, well, what's the most important thing in this stage of our development that we need to communicate. So she should be with us pretty soon. Yes. Oh, good. That's very good. The list of the questions. I can see much that. Well, hello, Rati.
Hi.
How are you doing?
How's it going? Hi.
Well, it's a little, it's an unplanned recovery. I'm actually in an airport.
I see that.
I missed my connection flight, and you can see them in the class. And so we're going to just roll with it like you would as if you just sold your first 1,000 pieces and you didn't know what to do for inventory.
Oh, no. Oh, man. Okay. Yeah, we got this. It's fine.
Exactly. Because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah. That's true. Where are you headed?
I'm headed to that classroom right there on the top left-hand corner, if you see the same thing I see. So I'll get there. I'll get there.
Yeah.
Planes, trains, and automobiles, I'll get there.
I'm sorry. I know. I was in a conference in LA yesterday, and the conference started at 10:15, and I got there at 10:20 because of a mechanical issue on a plane. So I feel your pain right now.
It's kind of stupid. I'll tell you that So they said there was a 15-minute technical delay. So I walked away. And they meant the plane was going to take off 15 minutes late. Don't walk away. But they didn't say don't walk away. So I just turned around and got a bottle of water. I came back and the door was locked. I was like, okay. I know you have limited time. So enough of my crazy ass story. So, well, thank you very much for joining us. And so this is my class. Some of them are from home because I told them I wasn't going to be there. So no reason that they would have to. So they're zooming in with us. And so they got the backstory. We watched the recording from your presentation in 2020 to the class of students. So kind of our world stops at 2020 relative to our understanding of the real. So thanks for taking the time. Maybe if you could give them maybe an update, and then I think they have some questions of you as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, 2020, we talked in 2020. I can't believe it was that long ago. Yeah, we had just gone public, and then we were kind of COVID happened, and we were struggling to kind of keep the company alive during COVID. So we had to lay off half of our team. So much has happened since, and that kind of set us back to get to profitability, because that's what we promised the street. So as we went public, we were talking about 20-30% growth and getting to profitability and break even after that. So that set us back by a couple of years, I would say. And we also realized, so then COVID happened, and then we realized that we had to make some changes. So we laid off a bunch of people, brought them back, because then we started growing again. And we realized that our business model actually wasn't working the way it was laid out, and we weren't going to get to profitability unless we made some changes. So we were losing about $130 million a year at that time. And we made some big changes, and three major changes. One was we realized that our service was more valuable than we thought, and we could charge more for our service. So we increased our take rate. So, for those that don't know, we take a percentage of each good that's sold, anywhere from 20% for like a Rolex watch, or even 15% for a high-end Rolex watch, to 80% for a pair of jeans, like luxury jeans. And so we increased that commission pretty dramatically. And that, along with one of the other things we did during COVID, was we started to buy merchandise. And we realized that the buying merchandise wasn't working. We were squeezing our margins. So for those that know regular retailers, you're squeezing your margins, and that didn't work. Well, what the investors love about our business is that we don't own inventory, right? And so everything's on consignment, and they also really like the sell-through of each of those items. So we decided to get off of buying inventory because we were squeezing our margins, and it actually wasn't profitable for us. And then the third thing we did was we were making about 600 million in revenue, and our operating expenses were 600 million. So we cut about 100 million of operating expenses, and we had about 4 layoffs. It was a really hard, difficult time during that time.
What year is that?
What year was that?
Roughly. Was that 2021?
That was 22. So the first we did the take rate changes, that had the most impact. Secondly, getting out of the direct business, second most impact. And third, cutting our operating expenses. And that got us to profitability as adjusted EBITDA positive, those 3 things. So that's kind of where we are right now. So we went from losing 130 million.
So for the rest of you, excuse me, for some of you, I don't know if you're finance backgrounds, but EBITDA is a very common acronym that we'll use in talking about our financials. It's earnings before income tax and appreciation. And in financial terms, it's a very important reference number. So looking at what your income would be, not considering those incremental taxes. It's almost like is this fair to say, Rati, that you would almost call that like a contribution margin kind of?
Yeah.
At
Like
the highest level.
Right.
Mhm.
Like it's how much we are making per item. That's yeah, another way to put it. And the streets always, as they invest in you and you have all your investors, they want to see that number kind of be very efficient or increase, right? And that's kind of, when we were signing up the Fidelities of the world and the Wells Fargos of the world and the Goldman Sachs of the world to invest in us, that's one of the things we promised was that, hey, we're going to get to profitability as a company, right? And we were unprofitable, which is just not efficient. We didn't want to be an unprofitable company. So that's kind of where we are. I think one of the things we had to do to get there was we had to decrease our business. So we stopped growing last year to really find that profitable business and made these changes. And then in I have to be careful because I can't talk in common terms because we're a public company and I have to be careful what I say about Q3. But Q2, we went back to growth again. So that's also an exciting thing because I think, as someone that's running the company, I feed off people telling me things I can't do and then go do them. And so they told us we couldn't get to profitability and we did it. And then they told us we couldn't get back to growth because we lost market share and we did it. So now we're kind of on that path. And then now the next few years, along with our vision around continuing to change the way people shop and educating them on the resale value of items, and thinking about it more like real estate, right? Like people call us and they ask us what has more resale value, the Chanel bag or the Hermes bag, and continuing to educate people and disrupt that space. We're also on the mission to get back to growth, find more efficiencies. We really scaled our authentication team since the last time we talked around machine learning and AI, and that's big hot topic right now. And but we focused on our moat, which is pricing algorithms, authentication, and our sales team, which is a little bit of the secret sauce behind what we do. So we focused all of the ML learning around those algorithms.
If I could ask on the
Yeah.
machine learning, what kind of digging down below the high level, whatever you can talk about anyways. I don't know if that's, do you guys own anything in terms of that's proprietary around how you've developed that, the training of the systems?
Yeah, so I mean, the interesting thing about us is that we take possession of the goods. So that's one thing that's different than us than like an eBay, right? In a peer-to-peer. So because of that, we have 13 years of data and we have attribution data and we have physical inventory of that, of those items. So, how do we use machine learning in the company? So I'll give you an example around maybe the best one is authentication. I'll start there. So that, like I said, the three areas are mostly authentication, pricing, and then our sales team, because our sales team, we've got 500 people that are out in the field going out and bringing these items. So one sales associate will bring in $4 million worth of merchandise. They go into people's closet, they bring in $4 million of merchandise every year, and then we process it, right? They're on a quota. So one of the things that we do is on the authentication side, when an item comes in, we develop something called Shield. So now what we can do is, like, let's say, Jeff, you can sign with us. We can see if you're a high likely to send us a fake or not. And based on that, you'll be sent down a different path in our operations warehouses. So, and that is good for us because now I don't need to hire a gemologist or a watchmaker that I pay $100,000 for, $100,000 for. Now I can kind of differentiate and have someone that is more of an entry-level position or now completely automated into the system. So that's one way. The other way is the sales team, for example. Their time is really valuable for us. Like I said, they go on these 4 appointments. They have these connections. They know where these closets are, where this product is. One of the things we call it smart sales. And so now they come to their computer every morning and we tell them who to call based on their household income, based on their email, based on are they likely to become a VIP or not, based on how we acquired them from marketing. Like we know if someone came in through direct mail or a certain Google channel, they're most likely to be a VIP. So just getting smarter about who to call and when, and more directive for the sales team so they don't have to think about it. Because before they just came to their computer and they would go through their 2,000 clients and call whoever they wanted, and it wasn't always efficient. So things like that. Now,
Matt, did you develop your own system, or are you using Salesforce, or what?
no, we're using our own system because and it's a combination for sure. Like the algorithms are done by our ML team. Hired someone that came over from eBay and ran marketing in eBay. So he is heading up this team.
Wow.
And so they feed it through Salesforce. So the data that sales team uses Salesforce, but the algorithms are coming from our own information.
Okay. So all your systems, because we're going to talk in the class about systems tomorrow, and so all your systems are all, the Salesforce is connect all the different systems where people might be coming from or going to, and so you've got all that data in your Salesforce system, and then you're using some outside system, as you said, machine learning, AI, to interrogate that data.
Yeah, and kind of make sense of it and feed it through to the sales team. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Been a fun few years.
Yeah. So one thing, the guys have some questions, guys and gals, of course, but the one thing that's kind of, it's probably difficult for you to, you keep smiling. Every time I've talked to you, you just keep smiling about, like, you know, as you said, as soon as somebody says something, you can't do that, or, you know what, and then you're like, I have a challenge, and you run back home and get your team and you guys figure out how to solve the problem.
Yeah.
What, watching your stock, just, I mean, you guys were tearing it up at the beginning, and then it must have been very hard to get up in the morning and keep smiling about that. But that's just, I mean, it's just this, I don't want to say it's just the stock, because that's the market's, you know, reflection, but like, I've watched a bunch of Jeff Bezos interviews, and he's like, the first 10 years, he's having to, like, almost yell back at all the investment community, say, no, I'm taking your money and I'm doing something with it, and be patient. So, and maybe you're not like scaling like a Bezos, but still, is that, how do you manage that noise? Because you have to take care of them, otherwise the money stops coming. Right. But keeping the energy focused on doing the business.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you focus on your top 10 to 15 shareholders. I think that's one. And the top 10 to 15 are in it for the longer term. They're not coming in and out. So I think that's on that side, right? And then the rest is noise, because they're smaller in and out. And, you know, we make sure that we tell our story, that we're going to conferences and we're getting ahead of it for sure. I think the harder part about the stock is internal. It's more the employees and having them understand what it means, right? And so we've got a lot of younger people who are younger in their career and maybe don't understand that it's going to go up and down, and stop watching it. And I think, like, it has been depressed a little bit for the last, like, few months since COVID. And so, you know, now we're just starting to see it ramp back up a little bit. But I think, you know, I think everyone is excited about what we're doing. They see where this can go and have confidence in where it can go, and are just in it for, the longer run. And I think, that said, they're bought into the investment community is not listening right now, because we're not a stock that matters. Like, we're too small right now. And so once we can start proving that we can get back to this 10% growth, we just got to profitability. Now our next phase is cash flow positive in the next year or two. Like, and if we can do that, that becomes interesting again, right? So it's keeping, like, the internal team motivated and understanding what's happening. I think that's actually harder and where we focus versus externally.
Okay, just because of the limited time, I have 100 questions, but I'm going to shut up and you guys ask if what you would like.
Okay, I'll start then. Hi, Kathy. First of all, thank you for taking the time to chat with us. My question is regarding consumer education. So how important is consumer education in your business model, particularly regarding the value of secondary luxury goods?
It's very important. So that's a really good question because consignment is newish still. And so I don't know if I mentioned this before, but 50% of our consigners have never consigned anything before. So they've not just with TheRealReal, but with eBay, with any kind of reseller. I don't know what your equivalent is there, but we have like a lot of like GOAT, Fashion File, things like that. So they've never consigned anywhere. So that is one of the hardest things that we have to do is educate people on what their items are worth. And so, and we spend a lot of money and time educating people through our sales organization, through technology, we just launched something called the Kelly Blue Book of Pricing. We relaunched it and it tells you what has better resale value because people, like I said, people would call us and ask us. So now they can look at this app and say, hey, Chanel has more resale value than Louis Vuitton or whatever it is. So we spend a lot of time educating people on that. And even like shoes, for example, may have less resale value because you wear them on your feet versus a top or whatever it is. Men's dress-up shirts have
gadgets,
less value just because they get dirty in the collar. So just kind of getting people to understand that is where we spend a lot of our time. One of the things that we find that is effective that to bring people into our ecosystem, because it's kind of a flywheel, right? They become a consignor, then they become a buyer, they become a buyer, and then they become a consignor, is that they understand the buyer message more than they understand the consignor message. So it's easy for them to understand, you know, Cartier 50% off versus come consign your luxury goods with us. They don't know what to do with that. And then our biggest like competitor right now is inertia, like where they don't do anything. A lot of these people that are consigners are pretty wealthy and they're in the top households incomes and they don't need the money. They don't always do it for the money, right? They can give it, they donate it, they do whatever they need to do with it. So we launch a lot of charities to get them to understand, yeah, this is bigger than you. This is better for the planet. 2,000 items are thrown away every second. We need to educate people on why clothing is not a throwaway item, right? Why is fashion not good for the environment? So educating people there too. And I think that one of the metrics that we're proudest of is that we're replacing fast fashion. And that, you know, instead of shopping H&M and Zara, they're coming to TheRealReal because now they see that resale value. So if they buy something for $200, they can sell it for $200 and make 120 back. And now that $80 just, now that item really costs $80 for 6 months versus, again, a lot of education. And you know, when we hire people, especially in the retail locations, that's not a huge revenue driver for us, but it's a huge awareness driver for us. So we hire a lot of gemologist watchmakers, experts, not because they know how to style things and what looks good on you, but they're actually know how to educate you on what the resale value is, or why does Hermes cost what it costs, or you know, why is that called the Kelly bag and the importance of it in our culture? Or so it's actually all about education. And when we think about education, we think about that's how we build community as well.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I have just a follow-up question regarding this. Do you maybe see any upcoming trends in the consignment retail, and how are you preparing for these kind of emerging trends in this industry market?
Do you mean fashion trends or do you mean consumer trends?
Well, I mean more in this kind of business model, so consignment reselling. Do you maybe see any emerging trends coming up, some new stuff that is going to change maybe this industry?
Well, I can tell you right now with the macro environment, the consumer is much more mindful about what they're purchasing and consigning. And that actually works in our favor right now because we're a value play. So what that means is, you know, we really push like, hey, this item was bought for $3,000 in the primary market, but we are selling it for $500. So it's really about the consumer being more mindful, and what we're seeing is a little bit of a trade down effect. So instead of buying the top tier luxury brand, they're buying the mid-tier luxury brand. And if they are buying mid-tier, maybe they're buying contemporary. But the interesting thing about our business is that their basket is staying the same, which means that, like, as far as wallet share, if they have $500 to spend, they're still buying $500 worth of product. They just might buy two products that are a little bit cheaper versus one product that's $500. So that's what we're seeing right now. And our hypothesis is that that's here to stay for the next like 12 to 18 months. So which means that we need more volume to feed that demand.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Rati.
Hi.
Do you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
great. So I have two questions. So I would just address the last thing that you said, that you need more volume. So are you more focused into expanding your market or becoming more luxurious and taking care of your customers because you're in the luxury items? So by expanding, then you also become less, let's say, exclusive towards your customers, and how is that, let's say, attaching to the or correlating to the customers that you have. So the more volume you produce, the less exclusive you become, because then you extend on your sales and so on.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because that, you know, we actually had that debate internally when we made all those changes. And we said, you know, maybe our business model is not suited for items under $100, and we need to focus on mid-value and a lot higher end, like you said. And when I say $100, I'm talking about the resale price. After we made the commission changes, we realized we could be profitable in items under 100 because our take rate was so much higher. We'll do about 2 billion in GMV this year. And just to give you some idea, that's on 30,000 consigners of product. So we have so much more room to go, is where I'm going with that. The TAM is very large for luxury and mid-tier luxury. So we think about everything from, you know, I don't know what you guys have over there, but we have Neiman Marcus, Saks, Bergdorf, like these are the luxury players, along with the brands that we were talking about. So there's so much volume and dollars in people's closets that we don't even have to have that conversation right now, because we're just now scratching the surface. We continue to scratch the surface. So it is that kind of that 80-20 rule, where 80% of your volume and your revenue can come from 20% of the people, right? And so that's kind of what we see as well. So we're really focused on expanding that number. So let me give you another stat. Like, so we've got 30,000 VIP consigners. If I do a lookalike in the United States, there's 34 million of them. So that tells me that there's a lot more room to go. And so really we're really, the question we're asking ourselves is, how do we double that number? and where does the growth continue to come from in the most efficient way. So we don't need to go down market, or we need to stay in this luxury space of value that we are in, and think like, again, that everything that's sold at any luxury store, we're going to stay with those brands. But our biggest, fastest categories right now is jewelry and watches, actually. So, and unbranded jewelry, because the price of gold has gone up and all of those things. But yeah, it's just a lot of opportunity right now in the US.
Yeah, especially watch market is crazy, especially with all those influencers going up and down on YouTube. It's just crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the first answer. And the second one is one which really confused me, turned me into a spin-off. I'd really like to, if you're able to share, was there any research done to support the way you act on the web? Because when you try to visit your web page, it's a closed door. So you are asking a visitor first, a really important thing. It's personal email, which is like, let's go to my apartment before we give you.
Yeah. I love that you asked that question. Every single
That's a really good
marketer,
one.
yeah, it's a really good question. And actually every single marketer that comes in for the first 6 months tests that, because they're like, this can't be right. This can't be right. And every single investor is like, nope, why? You're so old school. Nobody's doing this anymore. So there's something really efficient about bringing in a member and making them a buyer for us specifically. I don't think that works with everyone, but it works with our business. So we've got 40 million members, 40 million emails. We're over 40 million now, right? And that number grows, you know, by millions every year. And we can take, and because of all the Facebook like privacy acts and all those things that are happening, we have now first party data that other people have. So as people were getting hit by all the Facebook privacy dollars and getting less efficient, we were actually getting more efficient because we had the information ourselves. So that's number one. Number two is what I was saying around, now these members become consigners. We have a really hard time hitting someone cold to become a consigner because they just don't understand it. It's just the inertia, and it's still too new, and people don't understand what they still don't understand what consignment even means. And so by them becoming a member and turning them into a consigner, that's more efficient than me going out and getting a consigner cold. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But you know,
I know.
It's like I said, just inviting someone into your apartment before even getting knowing them, you know, asking them, give me your email, and then I will show you what is behind the closed door.
I know.
Hey, Alesh, does Rati have the rights to use that analogy without paying you a commission? That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'll use your name. I'll cite you.
Now,
You kind of filter out people at the front door.
Yeah. Exactly. And you're right, though, the bounce rate is high, but then we find that the intent is not high either. So what happens is we get millions more page views, but the conversion doesn't go up.
so
And then we lose the email. If that makes sense?
If I did a quick calculation in my head. So you said 20 million unique emails. If I'm 40.
40 million members, emails. That's right.
And you are managing all those emails via Salesforce, or you are using a different platform? Because I just did in my company a Salesforce, and I know that 40 million of email addresses in Salesforce is a lot of money in dollars yearly. So this is to manage. Wow.
Yeah, we actually don't use Salesforce for that. We only use Salesforce for the supply side. The demand side is powered by BigCommerce and other email kind of platforms. Yeah.
So you are doing the Einstein from Salesforce.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So thank
Yeah,
you very
that's
much.
only on the supply side. And we actually don't use Einstein. We built our own tool there too.
Great. Thank you.
I just want to comment. I really like your idea, and I went with my email into this immediately, and fantastic, really. Congratulations.
Thank
For
you.
to go like that into it, really.
Thank
So he went too, but via my email.
we do have your email, and we email you a lot, I'm sure.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Hi, Rati. Thank you for talking to us today. Did you think about a model where people could donate their stuff and you would have a foundation behind it and sell it on behalf of foundation and then use the money to educate people about consumption and consumer stuff?
Yeah, that is such a great idea, and I think that would be a really nice next step. One of the things that we do it in a very small scale. Like, for example, the Kardashians just did a sale with us and they donated to their nonprofit of choice. We're working with this Dallas Symphony next week. So we do it in that kind of capacity, but we're not doing it in the capacity where each and every individual consigner can pick their charity and have it donated that way. And I do think that will unlock some supply to this like more wealthy consumer, like we mentioned. But we're really focused more on the partnership and celebrity side right now to kind of market with. We also just did something with the Conservation International around sustainability, and we had a bunch of celebrities come and consign and donate their goods, and all that money went there. But getting that write-off, I think could be really interesting, but not something we always talk about, but haven't prioritized yet.
I thought about that because you said that wealthier people don't really need money, and they just want to get rid of the stuff and maybe do some good.
Right.
And there's maybe another point to this, that people who buy this stuff could have some, I don't know, bragging rights, sort of, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when we first started the company 13 years ago, it was kind of more secretive. If people bought resale, they were embarrassed by buying resale. And now it's much more, to your point, people brag about it. Like, it's more of a badge of honor because it was the smart thing to do, right? To not pay full price. And it's becoming more cool and natural.
Yeah, and also good for the planet, because you don't buy new, and yeah.
That's right. So people have a more focus towards sustainability now when making a purchase, 100%.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to pay attention to the clock here a little bit. You promised us 30 minutes, and so we're there. But are you okay for a few more minutes? If you have some other questions?
Yeah, if there's more questions, I'm happy to take them. I can go over.
I actually have one more question, if possible. So I wanted to ask you regarding your consignment deals with your basically sellers, customers. If I understood correctly, Jeff, last time I asked him, because you weren't with us, that basically every piece of which you take, you need to clean it, you need to wash it, or do whatever stuff. So you have some costs with that, right? Okay. And I wanted to ask you, since this is consignment deal between you and customers, do those customers have a right to take it back also, or they need to stay with you, or how is it? Because you have some costs with that, and if everybody or every third, fifth guy would come back and say, hey, please give me my piece back, it would be quite hard for you.
Yeah. And so we call that return to the seller. And there is a small percentage of items where the consignor has second thoughts. So let's say they're consigning a Rolex and then they decide they want it back. They don't want it, and that happens from time to time. It's a very small percentage, but it happens. And to your point, we've spent $10 processing that item. So what we do is we put in our contract and we say it up front that if someone wants an item back, we charge them $10 to get their item back after we've processed it. And that's how we keep our costs in line. And people actually really understand it. Like there's no pushback on that. It's very logical to people when we say, hey, it costs us $10 to process, and that's how much it's going to cost to get it back. And it's totally usually fine for people.
Hey, that's pretty cheap, actually. I'm going to start sending you my laundry.
Yeah, we don't actually dry clean it, so.
Just assessing the value of let's say a watch and just polishing it, the costs are much higher than just $10. So basically, if someone sends you a Rolex and you just touch it up, clean it up, and gives
Yeah,
the
so let's, I'll be careful how I say that. So yes, a Rolex watch will cost more to process. But something like jeans will cost less to process. So it's an average price. And we just charge the consumer the average. We don't charge them the full. Yeah. We just recoup our cost back overall for all categories.
the economy of scale which allows you to do this. So
That's right. Because remember, we're taking in now like 10 million items a year. So processing through. So it's really about the scale. And that makes it, I mean, and that's good news for us, right? Because it's hard, the barrier to entry is much higher now, based on all the tools and the technology and the systems and the trust that we built. It's really all about trust at the end of the day. And that's a harder thing to replicate.
That laser diamond color, was it the color and the braid, and did that end up coming to fruition?
Yeah, we've been using that for a couple of years now. So that took off hours from a gemologist's workflow. So, I mean, think about a tennis bracelet. They had to count each and every single diamond, like the melly on every single diamond stone. And now you put this through, it does it within 30 seconds, and it's more accurate than anything Sotheby's or Christie's even has. So that's the kind of technology that we, really focused on. And I can't remember what we talked about last time or not, but that's a huge competitive advantage for us when I say that the barriers to entry is really high.
Right. Before you projected it to be about 15 seconds versus an hour, and you said that was going to be a major deal. And I believe it's IP, right? It's yours. You and the University of Arizona.
We patent all of our tech, that we make and have, and we built that one with the University of Arizona. But we've got everything from that to X-ray machines for sneakers on how to catch fakes, because fake sneakers are stapled together, not glued, for example, or not stitched. And in an X-ray machine, you can see the staples on Yeezys pretty quickly. So that's so all these things that, and there's something called Vision that we've also developed in-house it took us years to build. And now all of our handbags are now authenticated via machine learning, which is this hardware tool that can tell you something's fake or not based on the pixel level. So it's think of it like a flashlight. It looks like a flashlight. We put it on the handbag or on the material, and based on the pixel level, it'll tell you if it's fake or not. And the reason we were able to do that is because we also sold 50 million items, and we have that data, that 13 years of data of those 50 million items. So now our kind of library of materials is very rich. because we take possession of everything.
I maybe have a follow-up question here. Sorry. So with the fakes, I'm assuming that the fakes are getting better and better. Do you maybe come across this kind of challenge to maybe get new fakes or new ways to find the fakes?
Yeah, they do get better and better. I mean, a lot of there's fake Hermes bags that cost $5,000 to make, to give you an idea. They're actually real leather, they're handcrafted, and those are the hardest ones, those ones that are people invested the most. The talent and the technology that we have, no one else has, right? So think about our handbag experts come from Sotheby's, they come from Christie's, they come from Hermes themselves. And because of the library that we've seen, we can continue to educate ourselves there. So yeah, but for sure, it's always something we have to stay on top of. We're constantly evolving to get it right. And I'd say it's less now about how they're making it, because that I think we have under control. It's that new brands get faked all the time. So, a few years ago, sneakers were not being faked the way they are now, but because they become more popular and culturally relevant, you've got Yeezy. I'm going to use Yeezys again. They're being faked all the time. You've got brands. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like more of the minimalist brands like Kate or The Row or Brunello Cucinelli or Laura Piana. These aren't like the marquee brands that everyone talks about, but these are the brands that are now being faked that weren't being faked 5 years ago. So it's more about staying on top of the brands and the newest fakes around which brands are being faked versus how like Hermes and Chanel are being faked. We have a lot of resources against those.
And if I understood correctly, you actually have a lot of in-house capacities in all of these regards. So you're not outsourcing a lot.
No, we built it all in-house. I'd say that we I don't know if this is a fact, but I'd say I take a guess that we have the most gemologists, watchmakers, handbag authenticators than anyone in the US.
Yeah, I think Jeff mentioned that in our previous session also.
I think you said that in a previous
Tiffany, for
discussion.
example, has 200 and we've got 1,000. Yeah.
Oh, interesting, because
Amazing.
before in your talk you said that other than Tiffany's, you'd only say that they had more, but
Yeah.
so things have
Tiffany
changed.
came out and they said they had 200 gemologists last year. So there you go.
You passed them a long time ago. If I could, just if a couple minutes to go, just in the spirit of that this class is about entrepreneurship, could you do a little bit of a flashback and maybe considering when you were in the garage and some of the major hurdles you've had, and we had a question before you came on about kind of some leadership challenges that you might have had where you've had to do things that were really hard and you had to react to the situation, and how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd say early on, we can tackle leadership first, but early on, it's about survival mode, right? And so there was a lot of things we didn't have the luxury to think about. And we were just trying to prove that this business model could work. So I think your leadership develops based on like where you are as a company and what resources you have. And now we've got a whole learning and development team. We have one of the best HR people in the country, I believe. And so it's just a different level of accountability around leadership. I think the hardest things were during COVID, and even more so during COVID. I think COVID was hard, of course, but I think everyone was facing COVID together. So there was this feeling that everyone was going through the same thing that made it a little bit easier to run a business somehow. But when we were making all those changes, getting to profitability, and we made some big changes fast, I'd say that was probably the hardest time. And we had those 4 layoffs, and we were really having to put the business first to make sure that we can survive and become a profitable company pretty quickly, because we didn't have the capital or resources to operate the way that we were operating. And so you have a threat to your business and you're making changes. I'd say that was the hardest piece. And I'd say as far as leadership goes, I think the one thing that I make sure I do is just be super transparent. So during that time, we were having weekly all hands. And even if I didn't have much to say, it just became a dialogue, and I would take questions. I wouldn't take real-time questions because you never know what you're going to get with 5,000 employees, but I would make sure that people had a forum to ask the questions, and I had my CFO on with me. We would just answer them and just talk super candidly and say, like, tell them like how we were feeling, what data we had to make the decisions, how, what we think will work or is more risky, but we're going to do it anyway. And some people decided to opt out at that time, and some people decided to stay and see it through. And I think that's like the one thing I'm most proud of is like how transparent we are and how we operate as a company. And that's just been really important to us, right? And our engagement scores during that time actually didn't go down. They stayed flat. And we had a $1 stock price and making all those changes. And I think that was a good outcome at the end of the day.
If I could, just going to you said engagement score. That's kind of a sophisticated concept. If you think about I'm just running my organization and I'm worried about kind of the KPIs that I'm chasing around. And then you're aware enough and mature enough along the way. At what point did you get to a place that you were actually starting to develop these, I would describe them as really developed, mature, advanced kind of processes within your operation they're indirectly associated with your business, but they're totally important. Like that your employees are happy and they feel fulfilled and they're challenged, but they have enough resources to do the job that's being asked of them and all those things. But I'm old enough that I've been around long enough that a lot of organizations just simply don't do that. Yeah. And what got you to being?
Well, me personally, I think it was experience. I think I saw how things were being done both ways. Mm-hmm. When you're tops down and not transparent, the culture is very different, and it doesn't instill or embody innovation. And that's like so important to us and what we do. And I think I saw the way that works, and the data wasn't showing that it could work well versus how it works now, and continuing to innovate and trust and people feeling like they have a safe environment to push back on their boss you just get more innovation. You get people at their best, and you get people that are happier. I mean, everyone does work better when they're confident and happier. And I've seen like the data. I have the data to prove that is true.
They're lucky to have you, and I'm not just saying that because you're on the call, but the people in the room, they're old enough. We have a couple younger, but most have been around long enough. They see that they have these dictators that just kind of tell everybody what to do, and that's not uncommon, even in today's environment where the freedom of just leaving and going and get another job somewhere else is there. But there's still this. The reason I'm saying this is that I don't know how many of these guys are going to jump out and go and do their own thing, but there's a thing that we always have to be cognizant of and try to be reflective and self-aware that, hey, maybe there's another way of looking at this thing, that I'm before as I evolve from this stage to this stage to this stage. Otherwise I can't scale and keep that same sense of excitement about problem solving.
Right. I think you have a rotating door like that, just of people leaving, right? And so that's not scalable either. And you know, driving results and managing KPIs is fun, like, but a lot of people can do that. Like, so I can get a lot of operators in here that just know how to drive results, but they leave a lot of bodies along the way. And it's just, it doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work well, and people are upset, they're angry, they leave, they come, they go. Like, it's not, so it's just not how we operate. Yeah.
I would grab that, and I'll say that again to everybody. That's a great sign. Just when that door starts spinning around, so when they're coming in, they're leaving at the same rate. That's when you know you got a big problem. And I've seen enough. Some people don't even pay attention when that thing's spinning around. So just as much as you can, try to remember that one as you're growing or managing your own operation. If there's some turnover that's high, that's relative to whatever, but
Yeah, and
it.
like, it's always, you still do a lot of things wrong, and you still have to adjust, and you still have to figure it out, and we get things wrong too. And I'd say, you know, it's easier around sometimes the corporate functions versus even the hourly, right? And so it just really depends on your workforce too. Like, industry standard for an hourly employee is 90%, 92% turns over every year. So you're retraining 90% of your team every year. I mean, that's kind of insane, right? Like, where I think warehouses think, so if you're doing better than 90, apparently you're doing well. And that's still that's a pretty low standard. But I'd say it's a challenging, that is a challenging thing to get right. I will say that.
Is this triggering any thoughts in the audience here? We're about 52 minutes in now.
Can I ask you something more?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. So I wonder about the structure of your clients. So probably you have data on average age or also gender balance, or so how do they spread? And also, second part of my question would be how you reach them, how you communicate with them.
Yeah. So we're about 75% female, 25% male. The household income is about 250K plus annually in US dollars. Age is anywhere from 18 to 54. That's where we play the most in. So it's pretty expansive there. And the piece that we target the most is not necessarily wealth or age, but it's people that enjoy or stay on top of fashion trends. That is our best consumer, right? Because they do have that it's important to them. It's important to them. They buy seasonally. They're buying 3-4 times a year. Certain, like, they buy a new coat every winter, for example. Every summer they're buying that new summer dress. And so if they're purchasing quarterly in a certain bracket and regularly, then they're most likely a mindful consumer. And that is mostly our consignor. So that's how we target them. And, you know, there's a lot of lookalikes and a lot of data that you can kind of replicate and how you can target them everywhere from digital to TV is a big one for us that actually does really well. Direct mail does really well. You know, those are more old school ways of marketing, but still kind of see a lot of engagement there. And then obviously Google Shopping, Facebook, like we see a good amount there, and both linear and OTT TV. TikTok is a big one now. That one is the fastest growing segment, I would say, as far as marketing goes. And then really it's just about optimization after that. And that's another place we use ML and AI. It's called the multi-touch model. So now we can see not just the first time that they've engaged with us, but the multiple, the LTV, the lifetime value of someone, and how often and how sticky they are based on what channel they came from.
So TV is still the most important one.
No, I'd say digital is still most important. I'd say TV is usually a surprising one, so I mention it.
Because in different researches they did, yeah, TV still has a very high position. Okay.
Yes.
And just one more question. How much time or how long is a period when you receive a certain item and you sell it? So how much time do you keep it on stock?
About 30 days. So one of the stats is 80% of our product sells in 90 days, but most items sell within 30 days. So why do consigners like that? Because they get paid pretty quickly. So how we optimize our pricing algorithms is based on that 30-day mark. Because if they sell their items quickly, they consign more, and we just kind of fuel that flywheel.
Right. And just last question. So can people can pay also with crypto, or you stay with fiat?
Not yet. Yeah. Well, we've got like every single other payment method, like Affirm. Affirm is buy now, pay later, which we're seeing more of lately, especially in the US. Venmo, PayPal, you know, but not crypto. It's a good question. A lot of retailers do take it now.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I have one follow-up question. I mean, when she what? Regarding returns, do you offer them and do you get a lot of them, or how is the procedure if somebody wants to return an item because of the damage, or he or she just doesn't want it?
Yeah, we take returns unless it's a final sale item. Our return rate is actually quite low. It's about 18%. So most retailers in the luxury space is 40. Ours is 18. And the reason why is because in other retailers, they will buy 2 sizes and return 1, and they just can't do that with us.
Oh, that's an interesting stat. What a trick.
Yeah.
One question about IT. Alex, you want to throw that out?
Thank you.
We steal you for a few more minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, if
I have a
Rati,
hard stop at 10, so I have 3 more minutes. Of
yeah,
course.
if Rati is still able to answer us, yeah. So the more I listen to you, the more you are speaking out like an IT CEO. Basically, you're not a retail, spokesperson, but IT. Everything is driven by IT, and the more I listen to you, the more I see how each and every business is slowly turning into more of a solution IT-driven company. You know, you develop your own software, you develop your own process. So you shifted away from your core business of reselling the let's say reused luxury goods into data-driven application company, which also sells goods. And you know,
Yeah, I would put, go ahead, sorry.
yeah, no, sorry, I'm not saying that this is what you became, but you know, listening to you, it's like you're giving a lot of attention and you're working a lot of into this direction. And then just before you said that 92% or even more a yearly churn on the employee side. So lowering your expenses.
Oh, sorry, not ours, luckily.
Oh, because I was like, just by lowering that amount of churn would increase your profitability like
Yes, 100%. That's why our sales team's attrition numbers are 5% annually, 100%. Yeah, no, you know, like everything we do is built around trust. Like I can't emphasize that enough. Like that's probably the most important thing, right? And so internally and externally, but yeah, that having that circling door is what I was saying was retail standard is 90% in a warehouse. And actually that's considered good, but if you work in a warehouse in the US. And ours is lower, not great, but lower, but that is a really high, that is a really hard number to affect and impact. Because if a worker, a pick, pack, and ship worker gets 25 cents more, they'll go to that job and they'll just walk out, right? There's less skin in the game for someone in a sales organization or corporate headquarters or even your retail organization. So that's been the hardest kind of area to impact, is what I'm saying. I still think we can, but it's a little harder.
Okay, great last question. So Rati, again, thank you so much for your
Yeah,
time. This is really, this is great that we finally caught
Sorry,
you.
Jeff. If I can just interrupt you for a moment, I maybe have one last question that Kati probably heard a lot of times. Maybe just some advice to young entrepreneurs looking to enter the luxury or premium goods market.
Oh, luxury goods. I mean, you know, I would say like my advice is not that interesting. It's like really about just hard work. Like I think that you'd be surprised how many people we have come through the door that's just not willing to put in the work or the hours or learn. And I think that sets you apart so much, like if you're trying to get in there, for sure.
Great answer. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. It was so nice to meet you. And the questions were awesome. So I love how smart, I mean, you guys are asking the same questions that Fidelity and Goldman asked. So that's pretty awesome. I should come here for my prep before I go there.
That's right. Everybody gets an A.
Yeah.
So we're going to be in New York in December 19th to the 28th, if you happen to be there.
Oh, yeah, I'll actually be there the week. We're doing National Consignment Day a couple weeks before that, so I'll be there for that event. So I'll just miss you guys.
We're just going to miss
fun.
you. All right, next time.
Yeah, next time.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Talk to you later. Bye.
You guys stay online. Bye, Rati.
Bye, Jeff.
Yeah. Enough of this. I'm just loving this George Clooney airport thing going here. This is great. Well, thanks a lot for jumping on, and I'm really delighted that she was able to hang out for the full an hour. Good last question too, about like what to ask. It really is. It's hard. It's just hard work, and I think it's but you're already doing it, so you know that, and I think maybe the answer is it's not any different than you're experiencing. It's like every day it's a unique challenge, and that challenge has never been there before, and it will never be there again. It will never look the same way, and so it's really when you look at the leadership, entrepreneurship, winning attributes, that's why it's got so many pieces to it, and because the winner is somebody who like just sees all these pieces, and then in a particular moment they're able to pull the critical pieces in on that particular situation. That's hard. It's not for everybody. You want to take like 10 minutes, and we'll come back, and I'll pull up some slides. I don't know if I'll make it to 9, just because I need to go find a place to sleep. I catch a 6:30 flight to get there by, I think 10:30 is when it lands. And Christian is the nicest guy. He's like, "Oh, whenever you get here, I'll come catch you." So I think I'll be there.
That bench behind you looks pretty cozy, I think.
He's a little kid as a pillow.
Okay, see you.
Okay, 10 minutes.
All right.
10 minutes, okay.
McDonald's is out. That Apple is already has. So basically, you're just taking all that data, you use it and create a personal recommendation, and then it depends on the way we want to go. So basically, we would store that data, anonymize it, so we don't have any problems with PI. And just by sheer collecting the mass amount of data, we would just gather some demographics on the data that we can then relate to. So let's say the gender, the age, the activity, maybe also geo positioning of the person. So based, do they live in suburban area or in the city centers or something like this? And yeah, and maybe then marital status or additionally employment status. So because a lot of, let's say, 21st century diseases are more or less based on the stress levels. So basically on that, we could then also use a lot of predictional data and then suggestion recommendations. And then, yeah, the main focus would be states. So the US market would be the biggest focus, just sheer based on lack of the regulation using AI.
So let me interrupt you for a second. So if you just think about because that's a lot, right? It's a lot of data and it's a lot of analytics, and there's some critical mass that's required, down to an individual. There's some critical mass of how much data do I get about you, and then of course, more than the average bear about machine learning and AI, and then there also has to be this critical mass in the data set and in the training about that for that particular use case, as it were, to identify, a pattern that says, okay, if your poop looks like this, and then you have these, physical attributes, plus you have this work environment, then the probability of you having cancer is X. So that's where you're going. So the question is, maybe you know the answer, maybe you don't. I would guess that you don't, but you would have to, in your plan, identify what are the critical, mass of whatever that data set is.
So basically, the MVP would just be a working application, just using the data you already get from Apple, and just wrapping it up a little bit differently. You are muted.
Very smart. You knew I was saying that. You wanted to hear it out loud. Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect example of an MVP where you're taking as much as you can from what already exists, and then just putting a layer of some added value structure.
Just visually, we would pack it a little bit differently visually, connect it with nice graphs, the nice showment of your body, which is inner organs. Just maybe I already have it's a nice ocean blue color, and the organs and everything and veins are a little bit dark blue, so it's not connected to red. The red would become where there would be like signs of inflammation.
Some problem.
We don't do anything new. We just take what is there, just using already publicly available data based on higher body temperature. We would say something is wrong with your body. It could be this,
right?
And then just highlight the something in your body, and this would be the MVP. So just to create a eye candy application, which would gather masses, and by just sheer gathering the data, we would then slowly get the resources to then create further models.
So I don't know if this kind of hit you also as some. You listening to Rati earlier, and you see about Rati is I mean, anyone could have done TheRealReal when they started, and yet as quickly as possible they would wrap some IP around the processes, and part of it is scalability, that they've been able to scale, but and then related to that are some of the processes that allow them to scale. But those two things together, and then the spin-off is then they've got all this data. and she didn't say this before, but they used to be in a big fight with all the luxury brands because all the luxury brands thought, oh shit, here's this consignment, and basically we're going to wipe out our sales because everyone's going to buy used because it's a better deal. And then they, after a while, they learned that the data that the RealReal was collecting, because the RealReal would share some of it, not they wouldn't open their databases, but they shared it with these luxury firms, and they're now partners because they see the value in working together. So, okay, that's her story. But to you, you could, I don't know if you saw this or heard this when she was talking, but you could almost see the same thing. You're off doing something, and as a spin-off, you already said it, data, selling the data to the insurance companies or even employers, whoever would be interested in the health of these people, and governments as well. But you could say your data spinning off, and then the proprietary nature of how you're using that data then becomes that secondary business value proposition.
Yeah. Because then the application will be free of charge, and everything where there is a free of charge,
yeah,
consumer becomes the product.
I would question the free of charge thing. Yes, maybe as an intro, but people like to pay for value, and sometimes when things are free, we talked about this in the pricing in the very first class about the 4 price, product, promotion, place. The price sends a message, and if things are free, some people don't perceive that it has value. It doesn't. So whatever, right? It's almost, maybe I can use a lot of what Rati was talking about. Rati doesn't let everyone through the screen until you give up your email and stuff like that. So there's a perception that, hey, I have to give up something to become part of this club. It's not for everybody, and maybe I'm not worthy. So what you know, it's a perception on the buyer. Let's keep going if we could. Coachelle, do you have a?
Yeah, I can share lean canvas model.
Yeah, you can use that as a reference, but then for everybody else, you don't have to pull that up. I mostly just want to hear your story that you
can talk about it. Yeah. Well, we started with what's the problem?
Yes, always.
Yeah, because at my work, we come across with these problems all the time, and it came up kind of quickly. So we are working on AI AI model that can detect and that can first that it takes all the data and analyzes it.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Wait, go back.
Yeah.
Describe the problem though. I mean,
Okay.
you
I
own
wanted
this
to just
power plant
say
or whatever.
what the product is. Okay. The problem we have with hydropower plant maintenance and management is that the biggest problem is the unplanned downtime and hard to plan maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
one
you
of
know
the
what? Excuse me for interrupting again. And I know I keep doing it, but it's that simple, right?
Yeah, it's really simple because
and you know if I pushed you on it, maybe you'd have to go do homework, but you know what that costs you every year.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to go now. That's the biggest problem with hydroelectric power plants, because if you have a unplanned or unknown failure, that costs a lot, and you want to prevent that any way possible.
But you know that number, right? A lot.
Yeah,
you know what a lot is.
We have well, with us, that's that number is really small. But there are some others where this number is much higher, and it mostly depends on what kind of a power plant it is, and the maintenance crew that is working on them, you know. And the smaller the plant is, the less resources are allocated to maintenance and to people always checking up on the power plant itself. So that's a quite a big problem. And also one of the bigger problems is that it's hard to predict which parts you have to change in advance, you know, because you have for every part you have standard lifetime, and after this lifetime you're risking catastrophic
You call
failure.
it mean time to between failure, right? MTBTF.
Yeah. So these are two problems, and there's one more thing that's kind of impossible to do right now, is that it's from year to year it's more important to know how to predict the production level of electricity, you know, because when you sell the electricity, you say, I will sell this much, and if you're below or above that number, you have to pay penalties for that. So it creates additional costs, and they're not that small.
This is not related, but I'm just curious. This is a bit like finance. Do you like, if you compare it to finance, do you like sell and buy puts and calls?
It's finance. It's not like, it's finance, because it's it's the same.
Is do you have these other secondary market instruments that allow you to like hedge your bet?
It's like that. But it depends how big you are, and there are also different models to sell. You can sell, you can partner up with some big company and just sell them all the production, and they have to take the risk.
It's their job.
But you can also hedge and everything, and there are lots of models.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to distract you from
that.
No.
Your
idea is back on the production side.
It's actually interesting, because
it's right.
You think that it wouldn't be like that, but it's actually just like finance. So these are 3 problems that we identified, and the solution for this is actually now becoming possible, because we have these big models and data on which we can predict things, you know. And this is the idea of this solution. So the idea was that we collect all this data from the power plant, from all the sensors, from environmental conditions and everything, and we already have lots of this data, because we are operating for a lot of time, and we can use this to create a model that would predict failure, and create a maintenance plan for the crew, you know. And so one of the things would be that this model would prevent catastrophic failure. That would be one thing, and the other one would be that we could change the parts nearer to their actual life cycle. For example, if you have a bearing, you know, it's the life cycle is like 20,000 hours or something. But if it's good, it could work for 40,000. And if you don't have all this analytics, you would change it at 20, so you can double the savings costs.
That's very good. So what's the core? So you've got the data.
Yeah.
You've got the systems, at least your own internal systems that you can use as your kind of MVP. What's the secret sauce that you have to go develop here? Is it actually kind of the machine learning system and the AI system trained on that data?
I think that's the main thing. Yeah. So
and the next thing is like, so who do you have someone on your team who's that person, or is that a critical success factor to go hire Alish?
We already are looking for research and development engineers to get into this. Lots of employees that we already have on our team have the some of the knowledge that
Those are the
use.
subject matter experts, but those aren't your data scientists.
No,
right?
no. We have to get data
Right.
analysts.
Right.
And software engineers that would put this together. Yeah, we don't have that yet.
Maybe I could suggest this just separately.
Yeah.
Have you found somebody who's done this same thing but in a different industry, so that you could at least model the team and the core skills that need to be on that team before you'll probably have success?
Well, there are solutions in industrial applications for production. There are different companies that do that, but I didn't find any company that would do it in this sector.
No.
I know what you wanted to say. Yeah, I didn't do the research yet. How the teams are formed in that kinds of
For example,
companies.
let me pick on Rati again. So Rati, and by the way, Rati is the furthest person away that knows IT than you will ever meet in your life. I mean, that's just not her. That's not where she came from. That's not her background. But of course, 14 years later, she can tell you a lot about how these things work. Just practical, I know I need to go solve this problem. But related to what she did before, where did she, and you might even ask her directly, as a side through LinkedIn, or I'll give you her contact information. Where did she find the person that they hired to do the machine learning to evaluate the data that they were collecting to help them predict? For example, one key use case they have is, what should the price of that Louis Vuitton bag be right now? And so she hired economists, and then she's got her folks who are the experts on the bag, which from their own anecdotal experience, they'll give you what the value is of that bag on that day. But it's all that huge data that they have from their historical transactions, and all those things coming together. What makes that work is this person who understands machine learning, who works with these subject matter experts to develop a tool to help do this improved predictive analysis as to what the pricing should be. And they've done a great job. She didn't get into the details, but they've done a very good job in pulling those 90-day sales into a 30-day sale transaction, because as she said before, if it doesn't sell in 30, it's like produce. It's not as in demand. So anyway, but I think this is, I don't think I'm off here. I think that's the same critical success factor in your whole idea. There's the difference between scaling and.
Yeah, it's very similar. Yeah, because the background, just the product is different. So you probably need very similar people to do that.
Right.
Okay, the analysts are different, but it's totally different field. But the software engineers Yeah.
I think the process is very similar. That part of the has nothing to do with machines and all that. That's just data.
Mm. Yeah.
Very interesting. Anything else about your project that you'd want to say now or ask the question about?
I did look at the MVP. Thought about this we already have a lot of data. We just need to wrap around some software to start analyzing this probably just parts of the plant, not everything, and maybe this is where we could start.
Right. This is the thing I think this is where I'm kind of pushing you for all of your projects. All I'm trying to do is listen to enough of it where I can kind of go, I think it's the hard part often, because and a lot of us will kind of gloss over the hard part sometimes because maybe our subconscious knows that it's the hard part and we just don't want to grab it. But this thing, and I think, and this is where I don't know the business of the data, maybe there is enough data in here that you don't need the machine learning AI layer on it at first. Maybe there's enough just within the data, just doing basic, economic causality, R squared, familiar with statistics. You can just go in there and do a model looking at these relationships between, something in the data. Maybe it's the vibration of a machine.
Stuff like that, yeah.
There's some other business that's in the back of my head that I've had experience with. Like literally, there was when they had an audio sensor, and when something like vibrated and made some noise, that boom, it was like 30 days before there was an outage of some kind, and I can't remember what it was, but it was but nobody thought about putting these two things together. But then some data analyst was looking at the data and had the audio file actually as part of the data. And there was this like 1-to-1 correlation of, this buzz and then bang.
Yeah. That's actually the idea, because I know that every part makes another frequency, another temperature, everything like that, and when you connect this together, when the part will go to fail.
Right. We've all had a great mechanic listen to our car and tell us that. I just
That's actually because
30 years.
Now all these plants are automated, but like 20 years ago there were people there all the time, and they did it all by themselves, with their hands to manage them, and they knew by the sound and by the vibrations and everything what in what conditions were the parts.
Right. And now
so
all that knowledge is gone.
That is, but
the data is still there, but the knowledge is gone.
yeah.
But that one's going to be good. You're working with is it GEA?
Yeah, GEA,
yeah. Okay. Any other questions, or just move on?
Sorry?
Another question about the project?
Okay. Yeah.
Are you good?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's Martina? We'll pick on you. You're next, right below me.
Hi. Do you hear me?
Yes. You enjoy the commute today?
Yes, very much. I stay at home. My platform would be for monitoring and training. I did not have much time this week because I was teaching in school. But I managed to speak with your brother, and I see the Medeiros platform for learning and teaching, and it's pretty great. So I don't know what I will do now. It's actually covering everything that I was planning in my mind, but maybe that it would be a little bit more interactive. This means with people, with groups inside of the company.
Yep, yep.
That part maybe is missing. Because it is the teaching platform, but it's missing this interactive part.
Right, right. I think when you look at something like that, like a unique selling proposition that is a differentiator, and especially when you think about even like this class, right? This I should be there with you. We should be physically in the same room. I can't, you know, I have no idea what those guys are doing at the table. They're probably on their TikTok doing vid posts, and you know, there's just not the same. And even this is, but this is like live interaction, but it's and so what I think what you're seeing out there and what Darren's been peddling are mostly these almost fully automated systems where, you know, it's delegated to a system. A little bit of what Alicia was talking about earlier, I think when you talk about like, oh, the computers are taking over. It went from this intimate relationship that my value proposition is that intimacy and that kind of humanness to it, and that now I'm just basically a, you know, one pod in the matrix. I like these things. I like these things a lot. I don't think it's I think it's one of these things that kind of, while everyone's trying to be Starbucks of coffee, people are forgetting that the mama's coffee on the corner has a home because it's different.
Well, actually, I believe that we learn mostly from people. People from people. It is otherwise it's very difficult. Also, if you have platform and learning platform, the same, but then you need to discuss with somebody about that. It is missing this human touch, I guess, with the
I like this.
platforms.
I like this additive nature differentiator to the idea from what you were talking about last week. And so how do you do that?
Yes. Now, the problem is with the money. I have no idea how much this is cost, like creating that platform. Alesh maybe know that. He is IT developer. So I have no idea how much that kind of application and platform cost. How many people is needed to build that? I have no idea.
We can talk about that tomorrow. I would stay away from trying to answer that one yourself, and I would focus more on the attributes of the.
Your brother told me that platform for one user is 10 euros per year, and this is quite a good price, I believe.
That's the cost. That's scaled. That's scaled up. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a good price for the whole year that you get all that learning platform, and it is good price because there are good courses inside of that platform.
Is he talking about the Go One platform? Is that one?
Yes, Go One. Yes.
That was Go
One. Yes. It's a pretty good platform.
So here you could actually, your idea actually could be just developing an offering that's in partnership with the Go One. Is that what you're thinking?
I don't know. I was just thinking about that it would be a little bit more interactive.
Yeah. So here's my point is that, so if your idea is, you know, whatever, and a big chunk of that idea is I have to develop a platform, and you find out that there's already somebody who's already developed that platform, then your solution is taking their platform, and you have to look at the costs, but if it's $10 a year, then whatever, anyone can pay that, and you're going to charge $15 a year as a packaged offering. that includes their $10 a year, and maybe you expose them to the $10 a year or not, doesn't matter. You tend not to want to, because you're selling a solution that happens to include the rights to the Go1 platform and the related resources. And then, but you're focused on what's that $5 added value? What are you going to do? What are you going to do to provide whatever, you know, on-site, once a month advice, or some like a concierge service, if you will, to this education?
Yeah, I think it will be a good idea, yes, because it's already created. It needs only to add. The platform, right. It existed, and it is actually good platform. It is only somehow adapted.
Yeah, I told you that he's been through so many of these startups in this area that I know he's done almost everything once, and he knows what's survived and what hasn't. So that's a good one. Yeah. Okay, good. So tomorrow, actually, let's sit down. Maybe we'll walk through maybe a little more specifically what would be like a go-to-market strategy. But in the meantime, focus specifically on what is the added value. If you're going to be the face-to-face that provides the kind of human interface to these resources, what would that look like? You know, there's orientation for new employees, monthly meetings, follow-up, maybe quarterly updates. But how do we kind of keep track that they don't just get, I don't know if any of you have used like Coursera or Khan Academy or any of these online self-education, adult education, ongoing education platforms, but those platforms try to keep up with you, and they try to keep encouraging you to take another class and don't stop now, almost like those language learning courses. It's been 3 days since you clicked on our app. Come on, learn another, you know, Slovenian word or whatever, you know, but the retention rate is terrible. So there is a lack of the humanity that allows that is an opportunity. I don't know the answer. Otherwise I'd go do that and I'd be a gazillionaire again.
That platform should be sell internally in the company, I believe. So it needs to be developed like every company in HR, they need to develop something like that.
Right, but you want to, this is an entrepreneurship class focused on startups, so you would want to create something that would be highly customizable, but highly repeatable. Think about like a Salesforce application or any enterprise resource planning application, and it's almost all, it's like 95% the same, and then for every, you know, implementation, it's different, but it can't be too different, otherwise it's custom application.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a trick. So I think, you know, we only have so much more time left in the class, but that's the thing you'd want to think about and say, well, okay, what are those? And that's where the MVP is so valuable. What are the really important things? Just three. There are three really important things that I could add value to that would allow me to customize this to make it relevant for any particular company so that they would give me money to go do that. And it has to be in a repeatable way, but first with the first customer.
Oh, this is really difficult, I believe.
It's very hard. I mean, it's like Mark Twain said. He said, you know, I would have written you a short letter, but I didn't have enough time. And it's all about editing. So I wrote you a long one instead. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. It's a great quote. I'm paraphrasing him, but he said that one. He's a smart guy. Who's the next one? We're not done, are we? How's our pharmacist back there? Or our lab tech?
You mean me?
You got the centrifuges going yet?
Centrifuge? No centrifuge. I will not work on that. But that's a smart question, you know, because you're right. Yeah, I finally really find out that I took really a serious and terrible work to do for myself, because it's really very, very hard, totally very hard. You know, so I will just say something what it's not mine, but it's actually what Socrates said, because they all know that I like Socrates. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new, you know? And that's true. If you want to do that, if you want to make universal, somehow common regions, at least for 3 different stories, for 3 different platforms, is a huge task.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, but it comes with at first, if I start with a problem, you need to do everything. You need to think about different types of blood, whole blood, serum, plasma, because now we are doing some tests in immunology in plasma, some in the whole blood, some in serum. And now we need to bring everything together. So it's really hard. It's really hard. And this
Right.
is a basic. This is the basic, yeah? Then the second problem is that we need to make unification with the manufacturers, also with Siemens, with Sysmex, with Becton Dickinson, that they will all be somehow in consideration, that they will also like to do that. Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is the second problem. The third problem is a regulatory one. Yeah, IVDR, FDR. We need to put this everything under the one umbrella, and it will be hard. So I'm talking here about the problems, because you said that we need to come out of the problems. So I just pointed out some of them.
Let me. I'm sorry, but I mean that's the problem, and that's your problem in implementing the solution, or calling out the critical success factors that might prohibit you from being able to be successful. But that's different than the problem itself, right?
Yeah. Okay, but this is something what we need to find out that we are able to overcome.
Yeah, of course. Right.
Yeah. And this is not easy. Yeah, this is not easy. But if I'm talking about now, if we want to go with that, of course, we know that laboratories faces now really fragmented workflows across all the sectors: immunology, flow cytometry, hematology. And from this point of view, different assays require different reagents, increasing complexity and cost. And our value proposition, we will reduce all of that. We will reduce costs for laboratories, because we will make unique portfolio of reagents for all of them. And of course, we will somehow we will also find some with these cross-platform reagents that work across all 3 major types of assays. We will also make a solution for them for more unique, unified system that they will be able to apply. So we will be able to save a lot of problems which they are dealing now. Now in this in hospitals, in research labs, in diagnostic labs. This is what we are offering them. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you? It's still. I don't. Maybe it's just how I'm hearing it, but it's very.
Sorry.
I mean, it's complicated, but even if you solve one problem, and I mean, I'm saying this right, even if you can do 2 tests with one process, then that's a huge breakthrough, right?
Um,
Would that be like an MVP?
we are not talking about 2 tests. We are talking here about, I don't know, it could be also, I don't know, 500 tests, because we need to bring here different types. We are talking here about essays. You know, what is an essay? Essay is actually some kind of test. Yeah. But if we are looking from the immunology point of view, we are thinking here about, I don't know, in the normal laboratory, if you want the whole immuno status, I think that you can get also from the normal hospital at least 40 tests.
Okay.
If we are talking about hematology, you can get, I don't know, 16 tests if you are not running the special antibodies. But if you're running the special antibodies, that you want to know if you have leukemia or lymphoma or some, I don't know, subtypes of all those diseases, you can run, I don't know, 100 of tests. So we are talking here about the huge amount of tests, not only 20. No.
Oh, I was misunderstanding them. I thought it was that you could take, for example, one sample. I was going down this kind of a.
No, we need to be very specific here. We are talking. We have on one side samples, and on the other side we have reagents. So you need reagents applicable one that your sample type will be able to work a connection, will be able to somehow, how to say, that you will get a result from that. You need to have, right measurement, right measure for right measurement.
Okay.
It's what actually we want to do is really to bring the laboratories, research, and diagnostic one, the simple solution of bringing the common reagents for at least 3 platforms, because now they are using 3 different reagents. So for immunology, one type, for hematology, another, for flow cytometry, another. And what we see that it could work. So we need to bring everything together. But as I said, it's quite complicated. Yeah.
Let me try to pose a question of is the main critical success factor figuring out what that reagent is? Is that the? I mean, taking this from a concept down to implementation, what's the thing that you have to develop that doesn't exist today?
Yeah, exactly. We need to find out. I spoke a lot with some kind of people from diagnostic, because we were together in some congress this week, and we were talking about that, you know, and they were saying this is really this is fantastic idea, absolutely fantastic. I'm sure that you are not the one who are the first who want to do that, you know, that's for sure. But it's quite hard, because you need to put everything under the same label, you know. It's very easy to get, I don't know, hematology results, nothing special. You have a whole blood and you can get hemogram, you can get differential blood count, nothing special is there. Yeah. If you are going now furthermore and try to work immunology, this is something else. You need to find out antibodies. So you need to have in your reagent antibodies which will react with typical antigen in specific blood specimen. Okay, but this is also not so hard. you can do it somehow, yeah? With a good support, with a good, with a good chemist, you can do that. Now we are facing the bigger problem, and this is to bring flow cytometry into those specific areas. What is that? This is much more complicated because now we are looking for epitopes. Now we are looking for some special sub-antibodies, let me say very like, and now we need to find antigens, much more specific one in blood samples. So this is much more problematic. That's why, yeah, this is where is much more complicated.
Yeah.
And those, let me say, those researchers are even now much more costly than one simple hemogram or something like that. What we are now facing in the laboratories, it's looking like that. We are all going now to a big systems, really a big system, consolidation, all of those big systems. Laboratories is becoming really industries. They are working like crazy. We were this week in Rijeka. They actually bought a new machines, really crazy, like industry. They are working, I don't know how many samples per day. Really, it's just laboratory. It's not laboratory anymore. It's industry. Really, industry. And it's this will
the old way.
Sorry.
The old way.
I'm sorry.
They're doing this in the old way where they're just doing it more and more of this, but the same way.
No, you will not see anymore how they do pipetting or something like that. You know, like we saw it years ago. Now you have one one big board. There are results showing on, and actually in these big lines where you put samples, and you just track these samples on the huge board. Where is your sample, or where is, I don't know what's going on with this sample. And this is even why I'm thinking that universal reagent, because all of those linea where your sample is going, you have different modules in this linea, yeah? Immunology, hematology, everything is online, but everybody needs specific reagents. And if the industry is so smart that they are able to do this track, I really don't know why they don't do the same reagents, because this is really they should do that, and I'm sure that in the future they will do that. Because they are able to connect everything together. Why they are able? And this is not a problem of reagent. That's why I started with problem in samples.
I get it. So why aren't they doing it?
I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
Why aren't they doing it?
Yeah.
Why?
Fantastic. I don't know. I don't know, because
sometimes they're just so stuck with the current process that they can't even see doing it a different way. Maybe that's and is that's how you would describe your MVP? How to step into that?
Yeah, exactly. I did work on that. I didn't still finish, and I will talk about that tomorrow with you, because I need to see some things also.
Sorry, I keep bouncing.
Do you hear us?
Part of I keep.
My earbuds are running out of juice.
Yeah.
Can you hear me again? I'm sorry, my earbuds are running out of juice.
Do you hear us now?
Okay, let me just for sake of time then, if I could. So I get that one finally. It took me a while, but I get it.
Yeah, it's samples, more or less, you know.
Did you want to say one more thing?
No, it's okay. I understand it's a quite a tough topic. Really, it's a quite tough. It's not. It's even not easy to understand. I think.
I think I'm starting to pick it up though. I think tomorrow we can spend some time, and I think this is a face-to-face one that I can't do this remotely so easily.
Okay.
Yeah, so, sorry about that. And Simon and who do we have here in the corner?
Clever.
All right. Last one?
Last but not least. We put it in on the Slack. Our revolutionizing Safe Plus Pro. I don't know what to say.
Well, why don't you just like verbally just summarize the problem and the MVP? Why don't you do that? And then we'll break and reconvene tomorrow at 11.
Yes.
So the problem is how to avoid death from workplaces. Our ideas are almost similar than Alesh, but the idea is to have such a bracelet that monitors heartbeat, temperature, and also outside toxic environment like gases, like hazard situations that causes over a lot of millions of deaths each year from working places. So for MVP, we consider to use already existing a smart bracelet, just to adapt with additional sensors for outside hazard environments like toxic gases, CO2, and everything we would like to combine with the app that are simultaneously working with the chief of the construction or chief of the working environment and directly to the office. So when these critical values go too high, you can have already alert at the bracelets, already on the bosses, and already in the offices. So 2 or 3 backups to monitoring the critical situation. And also when users would find a critical situation, there could be a alert button on it, so that if he presses, it means that something is critical and he's not 100% safe at the work office.
Right.
Workplace, yeah, sorry. We also consider to take these MVP products to 2 different companies. One company is Strabag, is a construction company who employs more than 77,000 people in Slovenia, around 150. And also agriculture company, the biggest one in Slovenia, Panvita, who are daily outside on the field, working under the huge temperature, humidity, and so on. So if we can start and we can get some of those 2 companies, then we can offer to other programs or other workplaces like chemical industries, minings, and so on.
But you're picking these because you think that they have the kind of highest value proposition to having a solution to their problem, and that would be a good partnership.
Working on the field, so they would be like the perfect guys to see how it's working. And all these guys in Panvita, they're working in some hazards environments on the field. So that was with the chickens and all this stuff. So they're quite perfect match for us.
One thing I read in your write-up is that you were going to develop a device. Are you still hung up on developing a device, or did you rethink that?
No, not develop. We will use already existing one, but we will just adapt it with additional sensors.
Oh, okay. Good. Yeah. Yeah, developing devices is a whole new world.
Yeah. But when we investigated the work death, we think that there is a one room for it, because it's we found out more than 10 million work deaths are done are per day in the world. So from the cardiovascular disease or
heat strokes,
and
all this stuff.
Right. Very interesting. I wonder, actually send me a chat in your team and ask me to go ask a buddy of mine for some data on this. And I'll just send him a quick note. Got a buddy of mine at the CDC in Atlanta, Georgia, who has a lot of, he has access to a lot of data on global data on, like, why do people die? And so he'd be able to at least pull the big numbers out and be able to share that with you, that you could use as a reference as to how big the problem is.
Thanks.
Yeah, Dr. Joe Brazee, he used to be a director for infectious diseases at the CDC for a couple decades. Very interesting. These are good. These are very good ideas. I think what I like is that the conversations are now kind of focusing more on that core problem, and that you can describe that clearly. I think you guys, it's 2-week class, so you don't have time to do it, but if you're serious about the problem, you'll know how to articulate the size of the problem and the value of the problem by market segment. And this is the litmus test is, yeah, okay, people have these ailments. Maybe I have a back problem because my shoes don't fit, or that I've got a heat stroke, or I've got this stresses, so I'm dying earlier. I have this something about my body that I've got some data that is available through some other way. But if I knew that earlier, have an early detection system, then I would be able to save lives. How many lives? How many months? How many saved days in the hospital? Or how many saved work days where I'm not, paying for someone to be at home or in a wellness center? Or those financials are the economics underneath that motivate a marketplace. Second to, I intuitively know I have a problem, or somebody has some emotional desire to solve some problem. But you have to have those two things together. And then the next thing is also being able to simplify the MVP. What's my first step? Of course, as you've all been describing, you have this very kind of complex, large, long-term visions, and you want those. You want it to be able to, Facebook can do all these things, or WeChat can do all these things, or I've got a consolidated, reagenting system for detecting cancers, whatever the thing is. I can imagine applying it to many, many different use cases, but I start with one use case. So that's the trick, is to have this big vision, but being able to bring it down to, okay, what am I going to do right now? It's going to validate my idea and allow me to get to the market, so that people are going to keep giving me money so that I can keep scaling it. Just like Rati did with her 1,000 pieces in their garage, and then boom, they sold it right away. There's a proof point. It's an MVP. And from there, they end up with, 5,000 employees and doing $600 million a year. They used to do $1 billion a year, so they come down, but they're growing again. So that's nice to hear. So you can see that it starts with one simple thing first, and then we build on that to this bigger vision of our idea. Well, let me, it's been thank you very much for your patience in this very improv version of the class that you probably didn't expect. I'm happy that we were able to get Rati still. That was kind of my big thing. I was really afraid that I was going to screw that up and we weren't going to have her join us. But so thanks everybody. And also I land at 10:30 tomorrow and I'll be there at probably 11, you know, plus or minus some minutes. So don't run away if I'm not there. I'll be there.
I go.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
See you
Bye.
tomorrow.
All right. All right.
Good night.
See you tomorrow. Bye.